Hello viewers, welcome to One Stop All Poetry Solution. Today we are going to talk and discuss and learn about the poem Inchcape Rock by Robert Southey. I would first like to discuss a little bit about Robert Southey in a few lines. Robert Southey was a poet who used to write mostly didactic poems, in other words poems that had morals. And this poem that you have or you are going to read today, this is also no exception. He teaches through this poem to all the readers and like the importance of being good and doing good. Otherwise, nature has its own way of taking its revenge. So, the Inchcape Rock is a ballad. It is actually a place. It is there in original or in real life. It is a reef in the North Sea about 18 kilometers off the east coast of Angus, Scotland. So without much ado, let's start with the poem. No stir in the air, no stir in the sea. The ship was still as she could be. Her sails were from heaven received no motion. Her keel was steady in the ocean. So, I have divided the poem into 4 lines each so that it becomes easier for you to understand. So there was no stir in the ocean or no stir in the air. That means no movement. As a result, the ship was there motionless. There was no movement to move the ship. Her sails from heaven received no motion. So from the skies, the ship received no motion. It was standing erect. Her keel was steady in the ocean. A keel is a piece of wood or metal that supports the ship's structure. So it was steady. Now you will see that the first stanza and the second stanza denotes the calm atmosphere that the ship is presently in. So now let's move on to the second stanza. Without either sign or sound of their shock, the waves flowed over the Inchcape Rock. So little they rose, so little they fell, they did not move the Inchcape Bell. So there was no sign or sound of their shock. Whose shock? The waves' shock. That means the waves did not have any fierce movement. They were calm. The waves flowed over the Inchcape Rock. So they smoothly flowed. As it was the custom, as it was usual. There was nothing unusual in the waves. So little they rose, so little they fell. So the slight movement was caused due to the breeze and there was no gale or no storm. Now, they did not move the Inchcape Bell. So in the second stanza, we are introduced to the Inchcape Bell. What did the waves do? They did not do at all anything because there was no wind. The waves as a result were not high enough and were not high enough to reach the Inchcape Bell. It served as a warning, as you will find later, that the Inchcape Bell served as a warning so that the sailors are aware of the dangerous rock. Now the third stanza. The worthy abbot of Aberbrothock had placed that bell on the Inchcape Rock. On a buoy in the storm it floated and swung, and over the waves its warning rung. So the worthy abbot is someone who is the head of a monastery in Christian terms. He had placed that bell on the Inchcape Rock. On a buoy in the storm it floated and swung. So what is a buoy? A buoy is an object that floats on a water body to mark the places where it is dangerous and where it is safe for boats to go, because in the ocean or in the seas when it is wild, when there is too much of storm and turmoil, you generally tend to lose directions. So it was very necessary to, and there were chances as a result of crashing and dying. So the abbot made sure that the sailors' lives are saved, and he put that Inchcape Bell on the bell on the Inchcape Rock. And over the waves its warning rung. So the moment the sailors heard the bell, they knew that there was danger ahead and they could steer away from that direction. So it is, as I have stated, realizing the danger of submerged rocks, the abbot set up the bell, and as a result it would act as a warning. So now let's move on to the fourth stanza. When the rock was hid by the surge's swell, the mariners heard the warning bell, and then they knew the perilous rock and blessed the abbot of Aberbrothock. So the rock was hid by the surge's swell. That means the rock was not clearly visible. It was a submerged rock. And the sudden rising of the surge means the sudden rising up of the water. If the water rises to the surface of the rock, then it is not visible. As a result, the sailors who are new to that area, there are chances of crashing and dying. So the mariners referred to the sailors, and hearing the warning bell, the sailors were made aware of the impending danger. So their lives would be saved, and when their lives would be saved, automatically, like we say, when we are relieved of some pain, when we get our work done by the grace of God, we thank God. We don't we exclaim, oh, thank God, this is so and so is happy. Thank God, so and so danger is now, she is out of danger or he is out of danger. We have come out of this dangerous situation. So we thank God. So the abbot of Aberbrothock was blessed. They thanked him. The sun in the heaven was shining gay. All things were joyful on that day. So the calm and the peaceful atmosphere continues here also in the 5th stanza. The sun in the heaven was shining brightly and pleasantly. All things were joyful on that day. So all the creatures were joyful. The seabirds screamed as they wheeled round. So the seabirds, they were giving out joyous screams as they moved in circles, and there was joyance in their sounds. They were happy because everything was pleasant about them. The sun was shining gaily, the atmosphere was pleasant, the waves were rising only little by little, and they were giving out, the birds were giving out joyous screams. So everything was pleasant and happy. Now slowly there will be change. The buoy of the Inchcape Bell was seen, a darker speck on the ocean green. Sir Ralph the Rover walked his deck and fixed his eye on the darker speck. So we are introduced to another character apart from the abbot of Aberbrothock, that is Sir Ralph the Rover. So we here find that the Inchcape Bell was tied to the buoy, as we got to know in the previous stanzas that it was tied to the buoy and it was clearly visible. Now the poet is telling that there is a darker speck. I personally feel that in this line, particularly when you have not read the 3rd and the 4th line of this stanza, the darker speck hints at a dark spot in the ocean, because two ways the dark spot acts. There is a dual meaning to this word, two words, darker speck. First is the Inchcape Bell seemed a dark spot on the ocean, because if you see it from a distance, it will just seem a speck, a tiny dot. Okay, and the second meaning is the dark presence of someone in the serene ocean and atmosphere. The ocean was calm and serene. There was no turbulence, there was no disturbance. So the presence of Sir Ralph the Rover was dark. So he can also be regarded as a darker speck. Now, who is this darker speck? Sir Ralph the Rover. What was he doing? He was walking on his deck. Deck is the upper part of the ship, and now he fixed his eye on that darker speck. So being himself a darker speck, though he did not realize that, anyway he moved his eyes and fixed it with the help of, I am sure with the help of binoculars, to that darker speck. What is that darker speck? The Inchcape Bell. He felt the cheering power of spring. It made him whistle, it made him sing. His heart was mirthful to excess, but the rover's mirth was wickedness. Yes, everything was happy. We read it so along that the seabirds were happy, the sun was shining brightly, it was also happy. The ocean was calm and serene. There was no turbulence, no sadness, no agitation anywhere. But there is this sudden change. This, though it affected Sir Ralph's mood, though he was happy, though it cheered him, he was in a joyful spirit which made him whistle, it also made him sing, but he was joyful in excess. There is something fishy about it, we wonder, isn't it? That why is he so happy, singing, whistling, why is it? And the poet tells in the next line, yes, the rover's mirth was wickedness, so his joy had something devilish in the guise of it, in the guise of joy. Okay, let's see what happens next. Now we'll move on to the next stanza. His eye was on the Inchcape float. Float means the rock, okay. Quoth he, my men, put out the boat and row me to the Inchcape rock, and I'll play the Abbot of Aberbrothock. So he immediately starts giving out orders once he notices the Inchcape rock. And he quoted or said, men, put out the boat and row me to the Inchcape rock. So there was a kind of commanding tone, and he was up to something. Let's see what we don't wonder. We actually are worried that what is he up to. Now, and I'll play the Abbot of Aberbrothock increases our worry in the fourth line. So this is a clear hint that Sir Ralph has evil intentions. He did not like the abbot's good deed. Now what does he do? The boat is lowered, the boatmen row, and to the Inchcape rock they go. Sir Ralph bent over from the boat and he cut the bell from the Inchcape float. Now the rock is submerged, so it is not possible for him to get down and then detach the bell from the Inchcape rock. So what did he do? From the boat he moved, he bent, and immediately he detached the bell. So Sir Ralph derived a kind of satanic pleasure out of this wickedness. You can see the meaning of Satan in Google, and you can understand, because there is a wide number of interpretations, and I'm afraid that if I am going to discuss about it, it will take a lot of our time and we will be shifting away from our topic. Okay, so just go through it and you will understand, and basically you understand that even if you don't know the meaning of Satan, you can clearly understand that it is related to something evil, something that is not good, something black. Though according to the current and the modern interpretations, black is not always bad or evil, because there has been a wide number of instances and examples. You can look it up, and if you follow the news you will see. So let's come back to the topic. So Sir Ralph derived a kind of satanic pleasure out of his wicked deed. He was also ensuring the death of the other sailors, as without the bell they would crash against the rock and die. So this will be, you will see that it is clearly explained in the following stanza, that he did not care about the other sailors. He was just bothered about the bell being detached from the rock. That was it. He did not want the abbot to be blessed. He did not want sailors to bless him. He did not want him to earn the quote unquote good name. So now what does he do? Down sank the bell with a gurgling sound. You know about the sound of the gurgling. It's a sound that is uttered with a mixture of water and air, where there is a difference of pressure with lots of bubbles coming to the surface. The bubbles rose and burst around. Quoth Sir Ralph, the next who comes to the rock won't bless the Abbot of Aberbrothock. Just as we were reading in the previous stanza in the continuation, that yes, that was his main intention. So the bell now being detached, the bubbles rising to the surface and swallowing the bell, because the bell is now going down the water. And he said that the next sailor who comes to the rock, who comes to this area, or who comes or sails around these waters, he will not know the presence of the Inchcape rock, neither will he know the presence of the bell that was set up by the Abbot of Aberbrothock. So no blessing for the abbot. Okay, so his evil deed is fulfilled. Now let's move on to the final few stanzas. Sir Ralph the rover sailed away. He scoured the seas for many a day, and now grown rich with plundered store, he steers his course for Scotland's shore. So we see here in this stanza, we get the identity of Sir Ralph. So Sir Ralph the rover is a pirate, and he scoured the seas. That means he went along all the sea routes in search of something valuable, and now he has grown rich with all the looted stores. Now after looting and plundering, he now moves towards Scotland. He rode and sailed towards Scotland. So the readers, you will see, that clearly understand that Sir Ralph was a pirate. There was obviously, as a pirate, as someone evil, there are rare chances of him having any good intentions. Now what happens next? So thick a haze overspreads the sky. Now the pleasant atmosphere, all the evil deeds and everything is done. So will God, will the Almighty leave the one who has committed the evil, who has wronged him? No, he will be punished, and that is how it takes its course. So thick a haze overspreads the sky, they cannot see the sun on high. The wind hath blown a gale all day, at evening it hath died away. So there is a thick haze that is spreading over the sky. That, in other words, to put it simply, the sky is overcast. As a result, if it is overcast, there is poor visibility. You try looking outside your window on a winter morning, especially on a winter morning when there is fog, you will see that so little you can see. There is poor visibility, and it was so hazy that even the sun was not clearly visible, that was shining bright high above. And throughout the day there was a strong wind, but in the evening there was a slight change. The storm had passed away. On the deck Sir Rover takes his stand. So dark it is, they see no land. Now it is evening, there are no lights in the sea or in the ocean, and they cannot see any land. Nothing is visible. Quoth Sir Ralph, "It will be lighter soon, for there is dawn of the rising moon." So never mind if we are not being able to see in the dark, the moon will rise soon. It is time for the moon to rise up in the skies, and by the light of the moon we will be able to see everything, and the land will also be clearly visible to us, so there is nothing to worry about. So he is being optimistic that there will be light. Canst hear the breakers roar? For methinks we should be near the shore. Now where we are I cannot tell, but I wish we could hear the bell. So one of the sailors who accompanied him, probably another of the pirates, so he is telling that I cannot hear the breaking of the waves. For means that he is continuing his speech, and he is telling, for I think we should be near the shore. If there is breaking of the waves, that means that they are nowhere near the land. But since they cannot hear anything, he wonders that probably somewhere near they are. Now where we are I cannot tell, but I wish we could hear the Inchcape bell. So they cannot identify their own location, and as a result, what does he utter? He utters that he wished the Inchcape bell was there. It is a kind of a kind of a marker that it is there, and you can locate your direction. Why do you think the lighthouses are there? Because if there is any sailor, or if any ship is stranded, they know that if they move in such and such a direction, at least they'll be able to reach the lighthouse where they can get help. Though the lighthouses are generally not placed in between the ocean, or it is, even if it is there, it is there on a piece of land, not rising suddenly out of the ocean. But whatever it is, it ensures help, isn't it? So the same thing the sailor is telling, but I wish that I could hear this Inchcape bell. They hear no sound, the swell is strong, though the wind hath fallen, they drift along, till the vessel strikes with a shivering shock. O Christ, it is the Inchcape rock, and the damage is done. And also, the Almighty's revenge is taken, the evil is punished. So no sound, they are hearing no sound. As it is dark, the swell is strong, the waves are rising high, though the wind hath fallen, and with the wind they take the direction towards that Inchcape, dangerous Inchcape rock, and they crash. So the shivering shock indicates the sound of the collision, and the words of great dismay are uttered. They utter that, O Christ, it is the Inchcape rock. that they were not saved from the Inchcape Rock. Ultimately, it is the same Inchcape Rock that took their life. Sir Ralph the Rover tore his hair, helplessness and frustration tearing his hair apart. He cursed himself in his despair. The waves rushed in every side. The ship is sinking beneath the tide. So he cursed himself. Oh God, what did I do? He is repenting, kind of repenting, but there is no point in repenting because he cannot go back to his previous position because the damage is done. He has taken his own life and he is responsible for his death. Had he not done that evil deed, he would have probably been saved. But he was jealous. He derived the satanic pleasure, and God punished him. So the ship is now shipwrecked. The ship is now in total wreckage, and the waves are rushing in every direction. The ship is drowning. But even in his dying fear, one dreadful sound could the rover hear. A sound as if with the Inchcape bell the devil below was ringing his knell. So as Sir Ralph was dying, he was on his fearful death moments, the fear of death that was turning out to be true. During the moment of his death, he heard the sound similar to the bell, and it reminded him of the devil that was ringing his death knell. The knell, that is the funeral bell. It was a kind of reminder of the misdeeds that he had committed, and how he is paying for the evil deeds. So the moral of this poem is, what goes around comes around. You can put it in any way you like. Okay, one has to pay for the evil deeds, and thirdly, as you sow, so shall you reap. If you sow the seeds of say apple and expect to get maize out of it, then obviously you will not get, isn't it? That is the basic explanation. Now I'll just wind up with little bit of the figures of speech that is there. So one of them is the close alliteration, usage of alliteration, like the ship was still as she could be, in that line. And another use of alliteration is without either sign or sound of their shop. So these are the two examples of alliteration. Next is your personification, like the ship was hailed and attributed as spoken of as a person, because she is being described as the ship was as still as she could be. Her sails from heaven received no motion, her keel was steady in the oceans. So she is being spoken of as a person. Okay, that's why the personification. Next is your metaphor. These are only the three figures of speech. Metaphor, a sound as if with the Inchcape bell the devil below was ringing his knell. This is the usage of metaphor. So the sound has been compared, the sound of the bell has been compared to the devil's knell, the funeral bell. The Inchcape bell compared to the funeral bell. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the poem. I hope you will enjoy this poem, because it is a very simple and interesting poem. It gives you lots of moral lessons which you can use in your life as you go along the path of life, travel along the path of life. Okay, do stay tuned to One Stop All Poetry Solutions.